that's
Are we
like
good on it?
shaming. Something shaming just happened there.
Work shaming.
You all.
Yeah, like from there and to your right, you'll be good on this one.
Okay, cool. So I just wanted to first of all say thanks for helping me out with this. This is going to be kind of interactive. If you have any questions or anything, just jump right in. It's not going to be just push communication. So I'm going to be talking about how we can incorporate better listening skills to improve service and, in my life, sales and partnerships, but you can kind of tweak it to your own department. So the first thing I'm going to ask is if you could jot down and answer these questions. I have a couple pens here. And just asking what you think the most important function of the sales and partnership is, and then if there's any services we're missing out on. And I'll just give you a couple minutes to fill that out. If there's any questions, jump in. Happy to explain it a little bit better. Couple of seconds here. Take your time. All right. So to frame kind of my conversation, I'm going to be talking about some different listening strategies that we can incorporate to kind of help improve our sales and partnerships moving forward. And I'm going to frame it by kind of recapping 2018 really briefly. By the numbers, we absolutely killed it in the store last year, and it was an anomaly in a lot of ways. The bar chart below, it kind of shows year over year. This is revenue, so it's before kind of we give money for tax and shipping costs. So it's, but it was 2% growth, 4, and then this year we had about 20% increase, and that's probably not sustainable. So we're gonna have to figure out ways where we can come back to the norm, but still grow, and maybe instead of going 4%, we can improve it to maybe 6% or a little bit larger. So yeah, I mean, just the orders, Rob was shipping about a little over 30 orders a day every day he was here. So there was a lot coming through the store. And there's a couple things. Was it just because of snow? more likely than not, we've had unbelievable snow this year compared to the last couple of years. I personally like to think, because Andre and I worked on the Pro Deals page, we got a new look, kind of the facelift. And right when we launched it, we had a bunch of orders that were kind of normal in the summer, but I think that's going to kind of tail off. So what can we do when the snow's not great and it's just kind of an average winter and we can't get a new facelift on the online store every time to kind of increase sales? So to get back to the listening component, I'm gonna talk about like the zoom out and zoom in technique. So zooming out, looking above the forest, that's like gonna be the analytics that we have from our big commerce vendor. And it's also gonna be like the member survey. So 60% of the membership said, we love Pro Deals, we want Pro Deals. That's great, now that we know that, but we need to dig in a little bit more. And then also another example would be buying behavior, so just basic like units sold. Okay, let's order more of those, and people like these kind of products, we can look for similar products to brand. And then zoom in is under like a microscope, cellular, it's gonna be the member calls, emails. And this kind of lets you know the pressure points. So an open-ended questionnaire, which you just filled out, thank you, but that kind of feedback's really helpful. So when we're looking at partnerships, if there's a certain brand that, or subsect of our membership that we're not meeting the needs of, we can look into that. So whether that's communicating better that we actually do have a lot of brands that sell Nordic equipment and we're just not telling that story, these are the kind of things where we can really engage the membership and increase sales. So a case study, FDR had a pretty interesting presidency. He famously, just because it came after the tail of the Great Depression, there was a lot of people that were really passionate, and he received about 5,000 to 8,000 letters a day in the mail. And he was pretty famous for having staff read every single one. And if they were addressed personally to him, he would look through to the best visibility as many as he could. And in his speeches, he would incorporate some of the people's wording so that he could answer like kind of the cry of the people. And I mean, polls have been around since the 1800s, so kind of that broad understanding of concerns that were going on by the general population. He was aware of that, but he didn't know how passionate were people. And we've done a much better job here, even since I've been here, about looking at member survey. So survey says, oh, not that many people care about membership cards, but when you hear people calling, it's a different story, so it's somewhere in between. And if you're just relying on one set of data, you can't really provide like a good story. So he was getting 10 times the amount of mail that Hoover was, and he kind of used that information into how he was rolling out. I mean, some of the things I put on here don't even include World War II, so he had a lot going on in his presidency, and he was able to understand the temperature by really listening to people taking the time that were his constituents that were truly concerned. And I think we're doing a much better job since even I've started about like alumni survey and really understanding like, hey, what's important to you? And this kind of stuff, this interaction is good to keep the momentum going, because we'll be able to service our membership much better. And so, as I was saying before, so we can take surveys and figure out which brands are tracking well and which brands should we partner with. I got a lot of feedback that we dropped Office Depot, and thanks to Leslie and Bill, we got conversations going with them again, and we're going to be able to provide that lapse in a benefit. So, and then it's just listening to the customer's feedback on the reviews, and as contracts come up with like Patagonia, there's been a lot of passionate remarks about some of like the women's offerings and what can we do in some of the negotiating, the negotiation table to say, hey, we're really going to bat for this part of our membership, and truly stick to it. So that's going to be the big push on really optimizing some of our our listening skills to really improve the sales and partnerships when you can't just rely on a big snow year to kind of make everything right. So, you guys have any questions or feedback?
What were your the questions you had at the beginning? What would you think they would be as far as what would have been your?
Yeah, absolutely. So let me jump out of here and go there so I know specifically. So, from the, I guess the catalog side of the sales, I just think it's really trying to comb what patrollers need to have on their job, that's really gonna be helpful and valuable to them, and that might not be necessarily easy, especially for a volunteer that didn't have access to, a lot of people are close to like the, either nurses or no doctors, but just the access to valuable medical gear that's up to the standards, and then quality product that you can stand behind. And then the member benefit side of things through pro deals, I think it's really important for us to align with some of the most like new and up and coming and most relevant brands. And that can really help us with both our brand awareness, but just relevancy in kind of the changing outdoor industry. And for like that younger demographic, I think that's really important. So yeah, just provide a good member benefit and gear people up with what they need.
What do you do when you zoom in and the feedback you're getting is contradictory or kind of all over the board? How do you move forward when you might get 25 responses and they're all different and you're not seeing any kind of trend or?
Yeah, I think like sometimes stepping away because we're so close to a lot of the situations and stressors, because it's our daily job, but using like different framing techniques, like how will I feel about this in 10 minutes? How will I feel about this in 10 days? How will I feel about this in 10 years? And if you kind of pull yourself out of like the emotional connection you have with everything, I think that's like a really good way to not, yeah, and then just think about if someone outside of our organization who knew just enough about the situation, what would they do? If they didn't have my work history here or any of the experiences, like inter-office experiences, like what's the decision they would make? And that's been really helpful for a lot of tricky decision-making processes for kind of that.
You talked about a little bit how we're trying to improve the relationship with our members and things like that, but what do you have to do differently to grasp onto these new and innovative partners, that don't necessarily want to dish out thousands of dollars each year for a new contract, and what do they really like to see back from us, for them to stay with us for a long period of time?
Yeah, most of the smaller brands, and Icelandic's actually probably a good example. They're gonna come up here pretty soon, but like they were very small, and they've had like through like tracking kind of like the bigger scale like analytics, they're one of our most popular brands we send to people. So like they've like grown, and our relationship, like going back to the table with them, it's like, well, we can actually provide you a lot. Our members really connect with your brand. So I think having like a bigger picture of start small with some of these smaller brands and just demonstrate our memberships like buying power and passion and like the benefit of having your stuff out on the slopes with influencers is really important and valuable. And once they kind of, the more we're able to show them what we're really providing, the more value they see out of the partnerships we have, because we were really offering them with all the marketing benefits an amazing deal, just because it's so targeted, and we have such a passionate membership that it's like it is a unique opportunity.
I agree.
You ready for one more?
Yeah.
This question number 2 says benefits or services, and from my perspective, it's mostly product. And, you know, we don't do a lot of service other than database and record tracking.
Yep.
And I have heard, a small number of people say, don't you do some kind of fitness conditioning guidance or advice?
Mhm.
And so that's what I actually put. I think
Yeah.
that's something we might consider. I think there are lots of possibilities there.
I think that's a great idea, and we can learn from a couple of our partners, like Ordervox stopped doing they stopped doing kind of sales promotions, and they just ran a fitness campaign, and every week they'd send out, hey, do this workout and you'll be ready for ski season. We're working with Nordica right now to bring in, they have a skate to ski program to train you to get in shape for the winter, and they're gonna send us like booklets through the online store, and then we talked about it. Then you get the booklet, show you kind of the rules, and then kind of link it to the rollerblades. And I think that would be anything we can provide outside of just the basic expectation. I think the basic expectation is, yes, we're going to provide you gear. I think that is where we can really grow, and through that member survey of, yes, I'm actually interested in other topics outside than just the nitty gritty, but nuts and bolts is where we could really have opportunity to grow it. Cool. Well, that's it. I really appreciate you guys taking some time out of your day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And this is for your last class, right? Before you.
It's like I have